any pressure relief group, this will be passed on as well. Please put your name down if you are available to give PRGs or if you need one. Also, there is a newcomer orientation in the courtyard after the meeting. BDA literature, information on Debtors Anonymous, and specific tools of DA are available on the literature table once the meeting is over. There are also chips to celebrate various periods of abstinence from debt. We ask that all cell phones be turned off during the meeting. The purpose of Debtors Anonymous is to focus on DA issues as they relate to owning a business and to support the vision of being self-employed. In order to share the focus on our program, we ask that you not read from or mention outside literature in your share. Our speaker, Drew, has come to share his experience, strength, and hope with us in the specific area of the BDA toolkit and the 12 steps of DA. He probably won't need a microphone. Please welcome.
I'm Drew, I'm a debtor. I'm already crying. I was dying when I came into this room. I mean, I was broken. I hadn't paid my taxes in 5 years or filed them for the third time. I'd basically been sitting at home by myself doing nothing for 3 years. Hadn't opened mail in probably 4 years. The notices from the government had gone from like white to blue, and then they turned pink, and I knew it was really bad. But I couldn't open the mail. It was too much, and it was embarrassing. It was. I mean, it's like, I'm in another program, the beverage program, and that's not like embarrassing. That's kind of cool. Like, I screwed up my life. Like I was drinking, and you embellish the story, and then I was fighting with the guy. It's cool. Like sitting home by yourself, not working, isn't cool. It's embarrassing. Like not opening your mail, like having your wife pay for everything. It's humiliating. And it's not the kind of thing that you want to show up and be like, hey, like I can't be an adult and take care of myself, I couldn't talk about it with the person that was paying for me. It was just so humiliating and demoralizing. And so I went, I love seeing Troy here. I used to go to a meeting with Troy, and there were a couple guys at that meeting that would share about DA. And I remember like way back in the day, back when I was like 14, 15, I knew I had a drinking problem back then, but I was like, hey, I'm always going to smoke weed. And it was kind of that thing where like, well, I'm never going to go to DA. I mean, I don't need that, right? I mean, and then here I was, the mail had turned pink, and I had a couple $100 in my bank account. I've been doing a thing where I'd gotten sober again, I guess, like 5 years earlier, and I've been doing a thing where I work for 3 months, 6 months, a year, 1099 money, not pay taxes on that, not work, live off that until that was out, and somehow another job would come along and I'd work for, whatever again, not pay taxes on that money, live off it for a while. And it had caught up with me, and I knew that, stuff was going to be disappearing again soon. Bad things were going to be happening, and I just couldn't handle living the way that I was living anymore. I just couldn't do it anymore. I grew up moving a lot. I'd moved, I think, 13 times by the time I was 18. I went to boarding school for all of high school. I had a dad that was always kind of running from something. He worked, but he drank a lot. And I have a feeling there was, extramarital stuff going on, and then I had a mom that was always talking about how great everything was, who was, trying to make everything great whether you wanted it to be great or not. And there was a lot of yelling, and I was bullied. I was always the new kid. My dad's philosophy, I always felt like I could never, even as a little kid, I remember looking at my dad going, I could never be like him, like feeling inadequate and kind of wanting to die from a very young age, all the time. But he would say, I wake up in the morning and I check my body and I check my mind and I figure out what I want to do that day and who's going to stop me, and I go find them. And that was kind of like the advice that I was given on living life. Like that was it. I was never taught how to balance a checkbook. It was like that. It was like you go out, like bad things don't, happen to you. You allow bad things to happen to you. So go out and control. But I'm a sensitive guy, right? That's why I needed the booze. Like I'm a sensitive guy, and I don't really like feelings, and I have a lot of them, and I don't know how to manage them. And so, so ultimately where that ended up was, no booze and no cigarettes and no drugs, and sitting at home for years at a time, not opening mail, like feeling sorry for myself, not talking to anybody. And it's just a really miserable place to be. Not knowing, what to do. And so, at previous points in my life, I'd had this like high functioning, I've traveled the globe as a corporate business development guy in a suit, working for software companies, and I've worked for Microsoft, and I've worked for these other companies, leading teams of engineers, and because I'm again one of those people, like I meet in here, that I'm kind of a gregarious recluse, if you will, that I'm very good at pretending that I'm like this actor out on the stage, and I'm a tough guy, and I'm big, and I'm loud, and I can fight with people, and I can be a tough guy, and win. But, then I go behind doors and I want to fucking kill myself. I want to kill myself. And I hate myself, and I'm a loser, and they're going to find out. And I couldn't even really do that anymore. Like, that just wasn't available to me to do anymore, because it was so fraudulent. So, I came here. I don't know why I came here. I just knew that I had nowhere else to come, I'd spoken to a guy about this tax issue, and I was like, what do I do? And he was like, I really think you ought to go to DA. And so I came here, and I stood up as a newcomer, and I cried, and then I actually went home and I opened my mail. I didn't open all of it, but I opened some of it. I mean, there was a lot of mail. It took me a couple months to get through that mail just to shred it. It was a lot of mail. But so I started coming here. It took me, I think, a couple months, but I started coming regularly. I got a commitment. I knew from other programs that I needed to get a commitment. And I got an accountant, and I cut a deal with the accountant. I actually negotiated with the accountant, which was amazing. He was like, I want, for an offer and compromise, I want this amount of money. And you can do installments. And I was like, I seem to remember DA doesn't really like installments. So I was like, I have this much money in my bank account. I will give you all of this money as a cash discount. And if you don't get me an offer and compromise, I want half of it back. And he agreed, and we went through it for the next a little over a year. This was about 2 years ago I came here. And I ended up not getting, because I'd gotten married, I did not get accepted. I owed the government $52,000. I now owe the government, I think, $28,000 and change as of this month. But I went through the process, I did the work, and I was like, oh wow, he's like, oh yeah, you'll totally get accepted, and everyone's like, yeah, it'll totally, and it didn't work out. But it's, where are you now? But, I did the work, and as a result of doing the work, I now have a $1,169 per month payment that gets debited directly from my checking account, and I don't need to think about it, and I just need to make sure that the money's there, and the money's always there. I make sure of that, and that's that. And I don't, I'm not happy about it, but I did the crime, right? I did this, and I'm responsible for this. I have the best PRG team. You guys are so amazing. My first PRG, I just sat there and I cried for like an hour and a half, and they were so nice to me and so non-judgmental, and we didn't even really talk about money. It was like, how much do you need to live? And I was like, $4,000 a month. And they're like, we think you can make $4,000 a month. And I have, every month. I've averaged more than that. I've saved. I have, I think, $30,000 sitting in a savings account right now, or checking account, actually. I have more in other accounts. I have a budget. I have all of my money in my budget through the next couple months, which is, I'd never balanced a checkbook before I came here. I'd never written down anything. I didn't know how to do any of that. I'd never been shown how to do any of that stuff. And I learned that here through the booklet. The booklet over there on keeping numbers is really great. I've started a business. I have a marketing business, and I run my business like I run my program. And I actually sat with I do a lot of Zoom. So I was on Zoom with a client who's like a marine biologist who's on TV yesterday. And I heard myself saying with my business partner, she said, well, we're a little different because neither one of us has ever worked for a marketing company before, much less owning one. And so we kind of do things our own way. And we're just going to be totally upfront with you. And if you don't like it, then don't hire us and we'll be friends. And it just kind of like baffles people. Or we'll say, we said to a client recently, we said, we don't think this is working out for you or for us, so we're going to let you go. We'll be happy to help you with a recommendation. And they're like, but we're paying you. And we're like, yeah, we know, but it just doesn't feel right. It just doesn't feel right. We think you can do better. And so, like, I'm getting ready to meet with another client next week to tell them it's not working out. And I'm gonna sit down with them and I'm gonna say, this just really isn't working out, and here's why, and here are the numbers, because we track all of our time, and you're paying us this much, and we spent this much time on you, and we're only making like $50 an hour, and we charge $125 an hour. So how do you want to handle this? Like, can you help us? What can we do? And I'm going to put it right in his lap, and either he's going to pay us more or he's going to fire us. But it's going to be one of those two things. And so, these are things that I've learned here. These are things I didn't learn anywhere else. I didn't learn them in a school. My parents didn't teach them to me. I didn't learn them in a job. I learned them here. Because when you look at the principles, like, that's the only way that I can handle that. I can't control it. I can't manipulate it. I can't convince him that I'm worth more and he should pay me more. And, and this guy's a celebrity, too, which makes it even more funny. He's a famous actor. And so, in his mind, he is like, he's used to people giving him what he wants. And it's going to be really interesting to see what happens. But, part of me has that I'm not enough. And this is going to be the last client I ever get. And I still hear that voice in me. That this is it. Like you're giving away the last dollar you're ever going to get, and he's going to tell everyone, and no one's ever going to work for you again, or with you again. And so, but I run my business, like I run my program. I don't act one way here and another way, a 9 to 5, and I've learned that here. I keep my numbers religiously. I have a commitment. My commitment here is the most valuable 2 hours of my week. I'm either greeting usually or in the kitchen or doing setup, or I really try to never miss it. Because this is my commitment to myself and to my program. And, this is frankly where I derive my self-esteem, is by showing up here and doing what I say I'm going to do. I'm in my second year, I'm on my second step, so maybe the steps aren't my strength, but, there's room for improvement there. For me, like, clarity is so important to me. I just love, like, not having clarity. Like, that's my thing. There's money in the checking account or whatever. I used to make, like $150,000, $160,000 a year, and I would regularly, like, randomly run out of money, and I'd be like, why is there no money in the account? And I just never, like, knew. Or I would have, thousands and thousands of dollars. I must have walked away from $50,000 worth of expenses in my lifetime just because I couldn't be bothered to file the expense reports. That's where I come from, and where that leaves me is at home alone, feeling sorry for myself. And so I find that by having a commitment and by doing my numbers and by calling people, I'm not just engaging with them, I'm engaging with myself and the world, and I'm bringing myself into this big world, and I'm growing my self-esteem, and I'm being of use. I'm useful, and for me, that's the greatest gift, is that I feel like I'm bringing something to the world. I'm having an impact, rather than sitting at home, eating and breathing and pooping and sleeping, and that's not an existence. Was that 1 minute? 1 minute? Yeah, okay. So like I said, my PRG team is so awesome. I love you guys. My last PRG was so great, and there were two things. My wife had been wanting to buy this $5,000 mattress, and I was like, do we really need a $5,000 mattress? I was like, I'll tell you what, I'll bring it to my PRG team thinking they'll have my back, but no. They're like, you totally need a $5,000 mattress. And we got it, let me tell you, it's great. And so I came home and I told my wife, who's normal, and I'm in all sorts of programs. She's like, I'm like, do you want to go to a meeting with? She's like, nope. And so, so I go home and I go, yeah, my PRG team thinks we should totally get this $5,000 mattress. And she's like, I really like this DA. So you've won her over. But they also gave me another piece of direction, which was really great. Is that I called a couple of people that are in this room, and I got them to meet me at Taylor's Steakhouse for the direction of my PRG team, and I really wouldn't tell them why. And I think they thought I was trying to sell them Amway or something. And I got them there, and I brought them down. I said, I'm just here to tell you guys, I'm killing it. And just to be able to be there with people that I loved and be able to just give good news and just hang out and buy dinner was kind of like, oh, this is life. And I got that here, so thank you.